Alright, today I'll be talking to you about Title IX and if I think it's fair or not, and if you believe that the rules that it entails are fair or not. So I want to start off today with a little video to show you about men and women in sports and how they are kind of equal. It's a little funny too. Sponsored by Nike. Oh, it's a little It's a video sponsored by Nike, so it'll have some comedy in there. Okay, so what I wanted you to get from that video is that men and women were equal. As you saw in that last race, they kind of finished the race neck and neck. Kind of there's some shoving and conflicts, but they got over and they both finished the race and accomplished the same goal. And I want to also mention that they played the same sport. They were both running with each other, against each other, and that's men and women coming together to achieve a greater goal. So, Title IX, we have to define it, obviously, and this all comes from the UCSC Title IX Sexual Harassment Office official website. To a simple definition of Title IX, because there are many definitions, is a federal law prohibiting sex discrimination in educational institutions. And this was passed during the Educational Amendments Act of 1972. So at first, Title IX was about sex discrimination all over the U.S. with different sports, but now it was prohibitively made for educational systems. It expanded into the educational institutions in 1987, so this was probably roughly around 10 years after Title IX was passed. And women just wanted to show that they were not only equal in the household, in the work area, but also on the sports field, because this is a big push in American culture. So Title IX also reflects on rec leagues, non-funded organized tournaments, and just pickup games in general. So if you're on the kickball field, women should also be playing with you guys. Some fun facts is that, which I got from factsportsandscience.org, was that it was created not for professional athletes, because they believe at a professional athlete's level, the level of athleticism is at a higher level, so that they should be split into two. But at the collegiate level, and mainly the high school level, these men and women should not be judged against playing together. The NCAA. This is a big case. It was called the NCAA versus Smith. It was discussed in 1999 where the Supreme Court passed a law stating that the NCAA will not be held against any violations that a school has against the Title IX policy. So if a school like Elizabethtown violated Title IX, the NCAA would not be reflected upon that judgment. This is a big step for Title IX because this showed how it affects educational systems. Okay. So both genders need to have the same schedule for each sport. As you see with sports in Elizabethtown, men and women both are in the same conference. They roughly play the same teams, which is a huge step for women and men's sports, and it happens all over colleges. You see that with each college. Okay, why was this law created? Obviously, in the 1920s, women's rights was a big push, but Title IX didn't come till around 30 or 40 years after, and I believe that's due to American culture. In American culture, sports is obviously a big push. People want to see sports teams play, and now women want to also feel equal in this category as well. As you see, equality in the workplace, as I mentioned earlier, women want to feel like they are equal to men in every single way, which they are. Men and women are getting along. Obviously, as you see men and women playing sports or running together in that way, they butted heads a few times, but they both achieved that greater goal of finishing the finish line. All right, so let's talk about some stats. This is all taken from a Fox News article. Females in 1972, as you see all the degrees, they're at a very low rate, and now females in 2013 are at an increasingly high rate, 50% with law degrees. And another little fun fact is that women also make up 50% of college students. So that's a huge jump from the 1970s and prior. Studies show Participating in sports equals a better education. As women started participating in sports, they started getting smarter, they started getting college degrees, and they're more affluent in the working world. And they're also more competitive with their greater other, maybe in the household, you know, having a cook-off or whatnot. And the numbers don't lie, you know, the proof is in the pudding, as you just saw before. And I do agree with these facts. Some great features about the law, which is from balwick.lib.edu, is there's no discrimination via financial aid. So now D1 athletes that are male who are getting a full ride to a certain school. Now females are also getting that same full ride to certain schools, which is a huge accomplishment for females. Acceptance into the university or colleges, since there's an equal number of sports for each male and female, there will be the same number of acceptances and scholarships offered. Discriminating without a sport, so obviously if there's a male sport, there has to also be a female sport. So take lacrosse, for instance. If there was a male lacrosse team, there has to be a female lacrosse team. Within the educational system, this meant that, as I said earlier, men and women need to have an equal number of sports. So say at Elizabethtown, males had 40 sports, females also need to have 40 sports, which I think is fair, but I think there should be a little tweak in that rule. And there's obviously no exceptions to the rule. In my high school, I know in Ultimate Frisbee, a lot of male athletes wanted to start a team of male Frisbee athletes, and the school athletic director said they could not do that unless females participated in the sport due to the equal amount of sports for each male and females. So they said that's perfectly fine, and now females play on the Ultimate Frisbee team with males, and they're doing actually exceptionally well. I think they made the state tournament last year, so that's just another factor showing men and women can come together and can compete together to achieve a common goal. My changes to this rule, I want to make a +or-3 rule, which is that if you have, say you're going to a predominantly female school, take Elizabethtown for example, there's obviously more females here, there's obviously more female athletes. I feel that if their interest is shown, they should have 2 to 3 more sports than males because there's obviously more female athletes. This is not just for women also. I feel that at schools where there are more males, there should also be more male athletes where there should be more male sports. Not too many, just a little, 2 to 3. It brings out the strengths in schools. Schools want to bring out their max potential, and this is a great way to do it. Let's take Penn State and Elizabethtown, for example. Obviously, 2 very different schools. One's a university, public, federal funded, and another one's a private liberal arts institution. Let's say that Penn State had 40 male sports and 38 female sports. There's no problem with this. There's only a 2-sport difference. This is not saying that they're sexist in any way. They're just showing a bigger influence in male sports than female sports. When you take Elizabethtown, say they had 38 female sports and 35 male sports. Again, there's more females here. There's obviously going to be a little bit of a hierarchy in the women's sport. So there's no sexist talk about this because they're being equal. All right, maximizing your strengths. Every school does this. Every school wants to do this. But the problem is that big universities cannot have male sports. Take lacrosse, for example. There's a lot of schools down south like Florida and Florida State University that are trying to push for a male lacrosse team, but they can't because there are they need to adjust to a female sport as well. And there's not that much being shown for female sports at the time. It all relates to sports. Everyone wants money, power, and respect, and the way that a school gets this is it's through sports. So if they feel that there's a certain sport where they will see success, why not create it? Why can't we play? So if females can play male sports, as you see, I've seen females play football, I've seen them wrestle. Why can't males play a sport like field hockey? I know in my high school there was a bunch of males that wanted to play field hockey but could not due to the other teams wouldn't want to play our teams because we'd have a male on the team and it just would mess up the schedule and conflicts. Now this is a problem that should be changed because technically this is not fair to males. Title IX is a good thing. In closing statements, I feel that Title IX is a positive influence in the athletic culture. However, I feel that with this +or-3 rule, you're not being sexist in any way. You're just achieving to your school's needs. So the changes again, the +or- and achieving equality is the greatest factor that I want everyone to take out of this because male and female athletes are all the same and they're both equal. It's just about how much interest you show in each level of sports. Thank you.
Thank you.